All right, hey everybody, we're back. You remember we skinned that coyote, and now we're gonna go ahead and flesh it. Got the coyote right here, washed it. It's nice and clean. Cleaned it with Dawn, then put a little bit of fabric softener in the water when we rinsed it. Made it nice and soft, but it's ready to be fleshed now. So what we'll do is go ahead and we'll flip it because we gotta have the skin side out. There we go. Got it flipped. Put it on our fleshing beam. I like to use a wooden beam. Never used a fiberglass beam. I'm sure it would work just as well. But so we got the coyote on there. Now we're gonna start with fleshing the face and around the neck here. But you can see the hole here is too big, and the coyote wants to slide down. So what we're gonna do to keep that from happening is we're gonna use our vice grips, and we're gonna put them on. Just clamp the animal. There we go. Put our apron on, so we don't want to get stuff all over us. All right, there we go. Now go ahead and get our fleshing knife, which we're using a Necker Model 600. Nice knife. I've used cheaper knives, they don't work as well. And we're gonna start fleshing. And what we're gonna do is, we're not gonna hold a knife like this. I've got the flat side here, the bevel side is facing me. We're gonna use the curved side down. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna hold a knife perpendicular to the skin and just push down. That's it. And that's it. We're just gonna keep pushing. You can see all the flesh and the fat is coming off. And what we're gonna do is, we always wanna work on this on the board here. You don't wanna go on the edges like this. Okay, if you do, you're gonna end up tearing a hole. What you do is, once you get one side done, you rotate it. And we get this side right here. Hopefully I don't have to move the vice grips, which it looks like I didn't have to. So just flush that down, just like that. All right, flip it over again. Let me get the back. Okay, I'm gonna have to move my channel locks, or my vice grips, because it got a little loose on me. Okay, right there. All right. Again. Just push down. You can see it's coming nicely. Okay, once we're there, got a little bit left on the one side here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just roll the skin over, roll the hide over. Here, get that little piece. So it come right off here, hopefully. And there you go. Okay. And we're down to about the front legs. So we got the neck and the head done. Now, we don't really need these any longer. So we'll go ahead and put them away. All right. Now, all you do is just slide the skin up and just continue pushing down. That's all. Very simple. You know, I tell you, it makes it a lot easier if you have the right knife. A better knife works better. Okay, like I said, don't try not to catch yourself going on the edge, because if you do, you're gonna end up tearing the skin. It's easy to do, I mean, the skin's pretty thin there. And there's some bullet holes here where this coyote was shot, right here. So, gotta be careful when you're fleshing around the bullet holes. I mean, just, you know, it's not like a big deal, but, you know, just take your time so you don't tear it more than it is already. There you go. You can see that came out good. Again, rotate it. Get right here. Okay. Then in my skinning video I told you about leaving enough material or skin here on the legs. Skin them down. I mean, we're going to end up cutting them just below the elbow here once we put it on the stretcher. But for fleshing, it's best to leave as much as you can, because then when you can see when you pull your skin down, this keeps it nice and tight here, so you don't have to use vice grips, okay? And then again, you just push it down. Now you can see it's really thin right here. So, I mean, definitely we want to be careful when you see it thin like that. Just don't push down as hard. And always remember, you know, rotate your skin, because if you don't, I mean, you work on the edges, you're gonna tear it. And a fox, if you're doing a fox is like, oh, see, I was cheating there, going on the sides. A fox is paper thin. So when you do a fox, you got to be really, really careful. Okay. Okay, we got the other leg now. And this guy out here is not real fatty, so he's fleshing pretty easy. I mean, sometimes if they have a lot of fat on them, and, you know, you're fighting the big clumps of fat because it's a dry fat. Okay. Rotate it again. Get this part right here. And that's the last of that. You don't have to worry about getting too high up here, because, like I said, we're gonna end up cutting, you know, that skin off anyway. So just get the lower part of the leg. Get right there. So we're good. And always, hey, one of the key things is always keep your blade free of grease, okay? Because if it gets clumps of fat on this edge here, or on the front edge, then it's a lot harder to push. So you'll see how I'll do this every once in a while, because all I'm doing is I'm cleaning the fat off the blade, all right? And then sometimes if it's too fatty, it's real heavy fat, I mean, you need a piece of paper to wipe it off. All right, but always, you know, if you're having a hard time, you know, pushing, because it's not, so you can see that fat buildup on there. Here, I'll show you, get closer. Right there, this fat buildup makes the blade not as effective. So you just wipe it off right on the animal. Okay. And then again, you know, we're gonna rotate. Always gotta rotate. So make sure you don't get a tear. You can see we got a little tear right here. I don't know what happened there when I was pulling it, skinning it, it tore. So I'm just gonna be real careful around that, so I don't make it a bigger hole. Here's a bullet hole. Okay, it's the exit wound. So again, just want to be real careful, and all you do is just put less pressure on the, you know, on the hide there, or else you're gonna make a much bigger hole. And you know, it's not that it can't be fixed, but it's just more work. You see, then you gotta sew it. I mean, you're gonna have to sew that one anyway, but I'd rather not, you know, make a 10-inch incision, which happens sometimes. I'd rather have a nice small incision that I can close with 10 or 12 stitches. Okay, so again, you see how we're just pushing. And now I do have the blade slightly on an angle here, okay? But I'm not pushing hard, because if you start pushing too hard with the blade on an angle, you know what happens is you're gonna tear through. And then again, it's more work because you gotta sew it, okay? You just keep rotating, you know, keep pushing this down evenly. You can see a lot of fat here on this Coyote, right there, okay? Again, keep your blade clean. Okay, it's pretty good. Let me get over here, get this a little more, even that out, pushing it down. And when you get to the end, it just comes, you know, off the end of the Coyote like that, the skin. Okay, again, keep that clean. Keep this clean too, here, because, you know, the skin is gonna maybe go down that low, and you took all the time to wash it. You'd hate to get a bunch of grease on there again. All right, so there we go. You can see the skin here. I can feel it. It's really thin on the legs, which is nice, because a lot of times the bottom of that leg is, you know, the hardest to flesh, because a lot of times that fiber doesn't want to come off. All right, you can see how you start pulling it on an angle, it's just harder. So just make sure you rotate. There's fat underneath the flesh. So make sure you know, after you push the flesh down, that you get the fat as well. Okay. You can see it just comes off. Big nice peel right there. Okay. I mean, you can cut that off. Right there, use the other side of the knife. Cuts nicely. All right, so right here, okay, just work on the end here. And again, this bottom part is very, very thin, so you want to be careful. And anytime you got any kind of a protrusion or a bump, like here's the skin of the penis, and you it's a bump there, so if you started pushing real hard on that, you would tear through the skin. So take your time around it. So you see I just tore through right there. Well, it's at the base of the leg, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay, but the skin is very thin down at the end, okay? Make sure you're working closer up. I kind of got a little carried away there and let the skin get too far down. Then I'm stretching too far. You know, closer it is, I mean, the easier it is to work with and to control, you know, the amount of tension you're putting on the knife, or pressure, I should say. Just make sure you get any fat off that's right on the edges of the legs, okay, or any meat. You can see here there's a bunch of fat, or any of this meat that you left on there when you were skinning. Okay, make sure you get that off, or else it's going to spoil and possibly cause, you know, some fur damage. Okay. Okay, careful on the tail. You don't want to tear the tail off. Okay, there we go. See, get a little tear there. Pushing too hard right on the edges. Okay, it's okay though. It's the very edge. I'm not too worried about it. It's not really used for anything. Okay, bring it up higher. Keep it right in your work area here. That's it, right there. I think we're done. See if we can get a little bit of this off. Not gonna worry about that too much. Okay. Get right there. All right, and I think we're done. Let's take a look, see what she looks like. All right, so here we go. See, this is done. Gotta do some sewing here. Got 2 spots to sew, which won't be a big deal. You want to always sew those holes, because if you don't, you know, and then here's a small entry hole. See, if you don't sew these holes, you know, when they run a brush through there, it's gonna snag, and it could tear even more. So make sure you sew the holes. But you can see that's what it looks like when it's fleshed. It's nice and white. Got all the fat off, all the flesh. Now we're ready to sew it, and then put it on the rack for drying. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Hopefully we all learned something. Thanks. Bye.